You don't need a better training plan. You need to know what to do when that training plan hits a roadblock so you don't throw it out the window. Because you will hit a roadblock. Illness, injury, poor sleep, work, or life getting in the way, a few missed sessions, a few missed runs, and then all of a sudden you're spiraling and you think you've ruined everything. Today I'm going to try and stop that spiral by teaching you how to adjust your training like a coach so you can get back on the right track, whatever that is for you, and stop panicking every time life happens. And I understand adapting your own training can feel really daunting, and that's why we often try to blindly stick to the plan, or potentially even worse, just throw it out altogether and give up. But I promise you, nail this and you will unlock a whole new level of sophistication in your training, which is ultimately what's going to get you to being the best possible runner you can be. So today I am taking off my 225 marathoner chasing the Olympics hat and I'm picking up my coaching hat, which apparently doesn't fit me. It was just for visual effect. I've coached runners through almost everything. Niggles, flu, missed weeks, serious life changes, and some full-on landslides. I even coached this one, and he's really high maintenance. The ones who improve long-term aren't the ones with the perfect training plans. They're the ones who are willing and know how to adapt. Because honestly, writing the training plan is the easy bit. But like my coach always says, it is written in pencil.
I was like, this is totally in pencil.
The best plan for your next 12 weeks in week 1 is the one that you've got written down. But 6 weeks in, a lot of that pencil might have been rubbed out and tweaked and changed a little bit because of what's happened. And that's the best plan for you in that moment. Because whether we like it or not, things change. To get the most out of yourself, you have to be willing to adapt. And you also have to know what the right adaptations are for you and the circumstances you're in. So after I've done this workout, which has been adjusted, by the way, because of the circumstances I'm in, funnily enough, I'm gonna teach you how to think like you are your own coach, with some decision-making frameworks that you can apply to any workout, any week that needs adapting depending on what's happened. Because change is unavoidable, because we can't control what happens in our lives, but we can control how we respond to it and how we still get the most out of our training plan. All right, Daniel, are you ready to do your favorite thing in the world?
What?
Watch me run around in circles.
Hell yeah.
Hell yeah.
Let's do it. What was the original session?
Well, I feel like this session has been adapted in 2 ways. The original session was 6 to 8 by 800 meters of 2 to 3 minutes recovery. That's what was on my plan. And when I spoke to John last night, I was like, John, listen, I did 6 by a K 3 weeks ago, faster than the paces he's set for me to start at for 6 to 8 by 800. I was like, I'm in a different place from 3 weeks ago. I can go faster. These reps are 200 meters shorter. Can I do a little bit more? So he humoured me and said yes. So the range is now 6 to 10 by 800, but I think, and maybe we can ask John, he can correct me if I'm wrong, I think this session has been adapted from 8 to 10 by a K. That's what I would normally have for this type of workout, where I'm starting off kind of at threshold, just a little bit faster, and then aiming to pick it up. But I think because I'm coming back from illness, because I'm coming back from injury, they're 800 meter reps instead of K reps. We're gonna have some fun.
So what pace are you running today?
John wants me to run the first one in 2:38, and he wants my pace control to be better because last week I was supposed to run an 82 for the first one and I ran 76. So it's like more than 10% off. So I'm going to prove him wrong today, that I know how to pace myself, and I will start on a 2:38. And then from there it's just getting quicker. And there's no speed limit today, which means I can run as fast as I want. I can run a sub 2 minute 800 if I really wanted to. Well, I can't do that because I'm not that fast, but we go fast at the end.
Let's go. Yeah. Nice.
Hilariously, the microphone disconnected at this point, but what I was explaining here is that in the first rep, I started feeling some pain in my left glute and hamstring. Not ideal. That's going to be my good side, because my injured knee is on the right leg. I switched into some slightly firmer shoes to see if that would help, jogged a lap to see if it might ease off, and gave the second rep a go, but it just didn't feel right. And I've been doing this long enough to know and to recognize a warning sign that is not worth running through. And now this very video is even more relevant, ironically. Well, that was a little bit unexpected. I thought that my workout was going to be a nice little portion of this video that would break it up a little bit. I could talk to you about how it had been sort of slightly adapted because I'm coming back from an injury and I was ill last week, but actually I've been finding some momentum and I find myself sat here having run 1 and a bit reps of my 6 to 10 800s I had this morning. Quite fitting for this video, and especially because the information that I'm going to be giving you now is actually advice I'm taking right now myself. It's very normal to experience anxiety when you have to deviate from your plan, and it's very normal for your brain to jump from one conclusion to another, and before you know it, you're spiraling. Oh, that's great, I've just ruined my whole week. Where do I move this session to in my training plan? When am I going to be ready to train again? Am I ready now? Do I just make it up from here? What does it mean if I just skip this workout? Is that the right thing to do? And how do I not lose fitness? What you need to do with your coach hat on is take the emotion and with it, the indecision out of the situation. And we are going to do that by asking ourselves some questions. And don't worry, once I've given you this 4-piece framework that's going to give you the ability to know what the next steps are, I'm going to go through some common examples at the end. And since I had to DNF my session today, I'm also going to be the guinea pig. We're going to work through what I do next as well. This framework is simple. There's 4 questions you're going to ask yourself, and the answers to each of those 4 questions is going to give you the information you need to analyze and choose your next move. And the first question is, what state is my body in right now? And it's not a trick question. It's a really important one. And this relates to roadblocks that have come up through injury, illness, fatigue, anything impacting your physical condition. Let's say you've picked up an illness. Perhaps it's a cold, you're not sure if it's a flu. Are your symptoms above the neck or are they in your chest? What data points do we have? Is your resting heart rate elevated? And you don't need to be wearing a fitness tracker or a watch to determine this. You can just use a stopwatch and count your pulse. Is movement feeling harder than it usually does? How's that rate of perceived effort feeling? If you've been sick, but you think you're getting better, is your sleep back to normal? Can you complete a 20 to 30 minute easy run without feeling worse? If you're really not sure, that's a safe amount of time that you could test the waters for. But if the answers to those previous questions aren't making training sound like a good idea, that's probably the information you need. And whilst I can't give you really black and white, if this is your illness and you felt it for this many hours, then do this for your training, I can say that the goal of returning to training after an illness is not to test fitness. Those first few runs, the goal is to test and rebuild tolerance. And something I often say to the athletes I coach is 1 extra day than you think you need, whether that's because symptoms have gone from an injury or an illness, it's never a bad idea. Our second question, which really can apply to any roadblock that comes up, is what is the purpose of this week? And can I still meet that purpose with a little bit of rejigging? Obviously, if you're experiencing an illness or an injury, then that might not be the case. So you simply have to accept that if the purpose of this week was to build fitness, you can't build fitness on a sick or injured body. If you just had to cancel a session because work ran over, then let's not obsess over that missed workout. Let's zoom out for a second. Was this week about building volume? Was it about sharpening your speed? Was it a deload or a taper week? In which case, great. Then what we're going to do in this example, if we've missed Tuesday's workout, is look at the rest of our week with our emotions put to one side and see whether we can still achieve that purpose. And this isn't about, oh, where can I squeeze this workout in? It's about really visualizing that plan in pencil and thinking, okay, well, if this was written a little bit differently, how can this still work? If that session was a really key part of the week, can you move it 24 or 48 hours later? Maybe that puts it too close to your long run. Well, then maybe we reduce the long run because the workout's more important. Or if the long run is more important, then maybe we have to make peace with skipping the workout. This isn't about being able to tie everything up in a bow afterwards and make it look pretty and perfect as if this roadblock never appeared, but it's about getting the best out of it you can. Unfortunately, if you miss all of your training from Monday to Thursday and try and ram that in alongside everything else you've already got planned on Friday to Sunday, that's not going to work. So my advice for this one is do your best to redistribute the stimulus that you have and be clear on what the priority is. And this next question is going to make that a lot easier. Unfortunately, that question is going to have to wait a tiny bit longer because at this moment in time, John called me. So it's time to show you how I put all of this into practice when I'm the one having to adjust.
Okay. When can you see Chris?
I'm seeing him tomorrow, so that's really good timing.
Okay.
My thoughts are like, there's no point running on it till I've seen him because it's tomorrow
Fully
anyway.
agree. Yes, fully agree.
Yeah, I guess like see what he says and come up with a plan from there.
And obviously, he'll be able to do some diagnostic tests right away and just kind of go from there.
Yeah.
So. Okay, and how are you doing with that?
Yeah,
How are you feeling?
I think I'm just honestly trying to not think about it much, and so I'm just like trying my best to like strip the emotion out of it and know that I'm seeing Chris tomorrow and I'll get some answers and some next steps kind of thing.
I think that's smart to just, forget about it. We'll see also how rest affects it. That will also help us with from a diagnostic standpoint, I'm sure, for Chris. And so, just if it starts going away rather quickly, that's a great sign. You know, your body is getting back into the swing of things, and yes, we've been taking things slowly, but being patient with it is 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 hard sometimes, and there's little setbacks like this that can happen. Yeah, see what Chris says, and
we'll go from there.
That sounds sweet. Okay, that sounds good. Talk to you later.
Thanks, John.
All right, thanks. All right, bye-bye.
Bye. I'll also be showing you how that physio appointment went, finding out exactly what the problem is, and what I did next. So stick around to the end of the video to see those adaptations in practice. The third question is, what is the minimum effective dose? It's so easy to fall into the trap of, this was the planned session, it's that or nothing. But if you're short on time for some reason, your schedule's changed and there's nothing you can do, or your fitness has changed because you're building back from something, you can do a lot with less than you think. And that could look like doing 3 reps instead of 6, 20 minutes tempo instead of 40, a 60-minute long run instead of 90. If you threw every session or run completely out the window, every time you had to deviate from what was written on the schedule, you'd lose a lot more than if you just did a reduced version, or what you could manage, or just the minimum effective dose. And this is when we have to be really honest with ourselves, because it's easy to get greedy. When I was building back from my knee injury, you best believe I wanted to get to 60 minutes as quickly as possible. But for those first few weeks, 30 minutes was hard enough. Jumping up to 60 before my body was ready would only put me at a higher risk of re-injury, and it's not going to move the needle on fitness at all, because 30 minutes is already challenging enough. If you're coming back from some time off and 3 times 5 minutes leaves you laying on the floor with passers-by extremely concerned for your welfare, then you've already achieved the stimulus you needed to achieve, if not, maybe a bit too much. There's no point in doing another 3 reps. And sometimes this can serve as an opportunity for a clean swap as well. Maybe you had a 60-minute run planned, but actually you've got a 30-minute run later on in the week. Just swap them around. You're allowed to do that, so long as the distribution of your training load and your intensity still makes sense. And that is where I implore you to use common sense by looking at where it's distributed now and trying to get roughly close to that. Half done consistently beats fully done, but only occasionally. And the fourth question is, what do I need to do to protect the next 4 weeks? This is when you're going to zoom out from the moment that you're stuck down a little hole in the ground, looking up, feeling very sorry for yourself in this here present moment, and you're going to think longer term. And here's some things to help ease some anxiety with this question. 1 missed session today, if it's the right decision, will not lose you any fitness. 1 forced session today, if it's not the right decision, could cost you a couple of weeks. If the knock-on effect from that is poor recovery, injury, stress overload, and nervous system bullying. We all understand that fitness compounds, okay? Fatigue does the same thing, and so does injury. I wouldn't recommend trying it, but if you're injured, go out and train on it. It'll get worse. Whether you're in a specific training block for a race or not, that block of time is what needs protecting, not the day and how that looks on Strava. And that's probably the most powerful question for me that helps me take my emotions out of it, take myself out of the situation, and think about the fact that, yes, I want to make this work today. I want to do this workout. I want to fit this run in. I don't want to rest. But I know how much worse that will feel if that turns into multiple days and multiple weeks, and 4 weeks down the line, I'm still in the same spot. So it's about making the right decision, not just for present tense you, but future you as well. Kind of like asking, what advice would you give to a friend in your position? It can help you be a little bit less hard on yourself and a little bit more realistic. Before I leave you with that framework, to answer those 4 questions as subjectively as you wish, I'm going to talk through 3 of the most common examples, with a caveat that the individuals in these examples are made up. It's often not as simple as this one thing's come up, how do I deal with it? And this is where I want you to take hold of the nuance and really be your own coach and apply just a little bit of critical thinking. So first up, we got sick, we rested and recovered. We are no longer sick. How do we start back running? If symptoms have settled and your energy levels feel good, I would suggest on day 1 we do a short, easy run, whatever short means to you. For me, that would probably be 30 minutes. If the perception of effort or the heart rate on that run is considerably higher than usual, I'm going to take some walking breaks, and I might can the run early before trying again tomorrow. If I feel worse the next day, I will be resting again. Then after 2 to 3 days of easy, short runs, you could try a workout, but I would recommend shortening the volume of that workout by about 30 to 50%, and the goal of the workout would be just to do it, getting a score on the board and not caring what the number is. For the next one, I've missed a workout because life happened. Let's say this is your typical training week. You've got an easy run, a session, another easy run, a speed session, looks like a nice little rest day, and then a long run. If Tuesday's what we missed, option 1, we move it to Wednesday and push everything back 1 day. Option 2, if you think that's going to cause too much intensity or too much volume close to the long run, let's just reduce it to a little mini threshold. And option 3 is we skip it, chalk it off as a day that you chose to sleep instead of doing the workout in the middle of the night, and pick the plan back up from Wednesday onwards. What we're not going to do is stack back-to-back hard days just to make it work. And for this third one, I really am the guinea pig. This is when a niggle appears. That's the term we use for a baby injury. It's not quite an injury yet. This is where the plan might need adapting more than you'd like. And unfortunately, that sucks. Let's just hold that here and accept that for a moment. But unfortunately, you can't train on an injury and you cannot stand on the start line with only one leg working. But don't worry, I have recently gone through this. And actually next week's video is gonna be me talking about what it means when a pro gets injured and what actually happens when it's your job and you can't do it anymore. So now would be a great time to subscribe if you wanna watch that. And I'm gonna give you a traffic light system here. Green is some discomfort that warms up and disappears as you start running. Amber is something you can feel that is actually changing your form and is officially on the pain scale. And red is sharp or worsening pain. And we're going to adjust our training based on the color, broadly speaking. If the light's green, I'm going to say continue training, but I'd still probably reduce volume by 10 to 20% for the next few days. And I'd probably try and check in with the physio if you can. If the light's amber, we're going to remove intensity for 5, maybe even 7 days. Continue easy running if your stride is normal, so it's only impacting your form when you're running faster. And we're also going to reduce weekly volume by 30 to 40%. That's a protection mechanism. You can swap that for cross training if needed and if that's pain-free. And I'd avoid things that are going to set it off or that could add an extra risk. Things like downhill, a camber, really muddy surfaces. And I'm going to implore you to check in with a physio or health professional if this persists for 5 days or more. That's a good sign that it's not just gonna go away on its own. If the light is red, we are gonna stop running. Controversial, I know. Take 2 to 3 days completely off and book in with a physio or a doctor or insert other health professional. Someone that can give you the answers. Now, across all of those lights, if something doesn't feel right to you, that is enough for you to make the decision to call it. That pain that came up for me today was sudden. It's not something I've experienced before. And whilst it wasn't getting worse, it didn't feel right. And so I made the right call by canning it. The right call for me today, the right call for 4 weeks' time, Philly. And that gives me some peace alongside the feelings of, oh, I really want to do that workout today. I am so grateful that I already had my regular physio appointment booked in for the next day, and there is no one I trust more in the world than Chris Bremer to figure something out with my body. Chris did a bunch of assessments, checked how I was moving, ran a bunch of diagnostic tests, and the advantage I have is I've been seeing Chris for so many years that he knows my body inside out. When something like this comes up, he already has half the jigsaw pieces because he knows what those risk areas are for me, and he just knows where to look for those remaining jigsaw pieces. He found that on my left side, my posterior chain, and in particular my back, glute, and hamstring were very tight. And on top of that, he suspected that by being on the indoor track, with that left side being compressed due to the camber as you're going around the corners, meant that my sciatic nerve had got a little bit irritated. Definitely the right call to can the session. He loosened everything off, and we've added in some new hamstring strength work and activations, and he said that I'm good to run, but I should only session so long as there's no pain. That seems to have done the trick, because I have now run twice with no issues at all, and it is feeling better every day. So because I listened to those warning signs, all I actually lost this week was one workout. And if I'd pushed through it, that might have caused some real damage and resulted in a whole week off. And if you take just one thing away from this video today, I really hope it's the belief that the goal is not to follow the training plan perfectly. And I want to hear you telling yourself it's written in pencil. And John is going to love that because I stole his phrase. The goal is to have an understanding of what the plan is trying to do. Because once you understand that and accept the situation in front of you, you don't panic, or at least not as much when that plan needs to change. You adapt. And next week, I will show you just how easy it was to apply all of this whilst coming back from an injury, alongside all of the mental and financial strain of that. But until then, love the grind.